Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, welcome this morning. 6 months ago, I came home. I came back to the BBC to work with some of the best journalists and creative talent in the world as we face perhaps the greatest challenges in our history. My job, our job, is quite straightforward. We're going to show the British public who pay for this service that we know and will never, ever again forget what we're here to do. We're here to serve the public, not be served by them. We're going to do some of the greatest, boldest, most imaginative work of our lives. We're going to bring the wonders of new technology to millions. We're going to ensure that the BBC is well managed, robustly, but with simplicity and with directness. We're going to reward courage and truth-telling rather than back-covering and caution. This is an organisation brimful with people who feel passionately about serving the public. In my first few months, it's been my aim and pleasure to meet as many of those people as I can. From Orkney to Plymouth, from Mid Wales and the Springwatch team, to a wet and windy quarry in Hertfordshire with BBC Films, and in so many other places, both here and also across the UK. I've talked with people who share my passion, our passion, for this organisation, who are proud to say they work for the BBC, who are dedicated to the idea of public service broadcasting. To be given the right to be funded by a licence fee is a tremendous privilege. The people of this country, make a bold and generous commitment in paying for the BBC. They own it, they love it, and they expect only the best from it. And every day, we are going to show them that we are worthy of that commitment. Today, I want to talk about the future, about new ideas, a new relationship with our audience. But it would be wrong not to acknowledge that we do this in the shadow of some very serious failings, in the shadow of what happened over Savile and also the payoffs. No organisation as big as this one can avoid making mistakes. But I want to ensure that when we do make mistakes, they are caused by trying to serve our viewers, not by looking after ourselves. And when we make mistakes, and we will, let's own up to them quickly, learn from them, and move on. When making a programme, I want us to think how great this could be if we got it right, not what will happen to me if I get this wrong. The BBC will learn from criticism and welcome it. We will not be defensive. We gain enormously by being part of the most vigorous journalistic and creative market in the world, and clearly we'll have more to say about that later in the week. But we don't have all the wisdom. We need to listen and reflect and change when change is necessary. But I will be there to support those who reach for what the BBC can be at its best. I don't want people to progress simply by stopping things happening and ticking boxes. I want everyone in management in the BBC to see it as a creative job, an enabling job, an inspiring job, helping people to give of their best. But if this is all we do, it will not be enough. If all we do is to make sure the BBC is at its best, at its simplest, that it expresses its values clearly in all the work we do and behaviour, that won't be enough. Because the other great challenge is to change the BBC as the world around us change. We've, as an organisation, never been afraid of change. We've never feared new technology. In fact, we've done the reverse. We've always embraced it because we know it creates new opportunities to inform, to educate, and to entertain. So now we will change again. Now, I'm not proposing today to lay out some grand theory of broadcasting or to provide a guide to everything we want to do or to say. I prefer to be much simpler than that. I want the BBC to be simpler than that. We will rest the case for the BBC on the quality of what we do and the excellence of the service that we provide. I believe the case for the BBC is really a very straightforward one, a very pragmatic one. We have produced and continue to produce some of the very best programmes and services in the world. Our audiences wouldn't want to be without the BBC. And to people of every land, the BBC proclaims the liberty, originality, and creativity of the British people. At the core of the BBC's role is something very simple, very democratic, and very important. And it is to bring the best to everyone, wherever you are, whoever you are, whether you're rich or poor, old or young. That's what we do. And it's something I've always believed in when I was growing up on Merseyside, when I first joined the BBC, and in my last job at the Royal Opera House. Everybody deserves the best. But to do that in the future, we need to understand how our audiences are changing, how we can serve them better. A bit of video I was looking at recently has stuck with me over the past few months. It showed a toddler sitting up with a magazine, and she tries to swipe the magazine. Then she tries to expand the magazine, and then she bangs a magazine to try to make it play. Nothing happens, and in frustration, she throws it away. To a toddler, a magazine is a tablet that's bust. That's how this generation is growing up. It will have a totally different set of norms and behaviours. Almost every teenager today has a mobile, and it's this device they value the most, not the radio or the television. But for all of us, expectations are changing. When something big is happening, people don't want to wait. The public want news they can trust about what's going on wherever it is in the world, now, in the palm of their hand. And then they want to share it, and they want to talk about it. Audiences of the BBC, our public, want control, to find out things that matter to them, to turn and find something special. And they know that new technology means they can find it, whether it was recommended by a friend or suggested by a friendly algorithm. Our audiences demand to be involved, to share with others, to debate with others. They want less distance and more involvement. And to my mind, these are the most exciting trends in the media today, and we've only just started to work out what they'll mean, and also what we could do. Media people often use the word disruption for things like this. And to me, it's the wrong word. Disruption may be how we feel inside this industry, but for the public, the audiences out there using what we do, this is empowering. To them, it's becoming a golden age of media. Some facts. More than 9 million people and devices accessed BBC Sport online on transfer day. 40% of requests to the iPlayer now come from mobile devices. 40%. The figure just a few years ago was 6%. We had 1.5 million requests for our sitcom Bad Education, and it's brilliant, before the first programme had even been broadcast using the iPlayer. What a great opportunity this is. And we're going to embrace it, just as we embrace television, just as we embrace the internet, just as we created Freeview and the iPlayer. We're going to reinvent what we do, bit by bit, step by step, to serve this new audience in new ways. So, what does this mean for the BBC of the future? What might we look like on our 100th birthday in 2022? In some ways, we'll look the same. We'll be the same. We would still be the only public service that pretty much everyone chooses to use each week. We would still be the place everyone goes to for the big events. We would still be the preeminent provider of trusted news and information, not just locally, not just nationally, but all over the world. And of course, we'd still be famous for our drama, for instance, or our natural history. But in other critical ways, we will look quite different. The iPlayer would be the best online TV service in the world, and the front door to many people, to the whole world of the BBC. Globally, we'd reach more people. 500 million could be coming to our news, culture, and information service. We would be recognized the world over for what we do in music, the arts, the world of ideas. We would be Britain's catalyst for creativity, helping the UK's amazing array of arts and science institutions to reach new audiences across the globe. And we would have a two-way, a closer, a warmer relationship with our audiences. People would think not the BBC, but my BBC, our BBC. And that, to my mind, would be a BBC that had reinvented itself, still confidently informing, educating, and entertaining, but in a very different way. It would be a BBC worthy of its 100th birthday, a BBC to be proud of, a BBC whose best days lie ahead of it. The key challenge, the core of what we have to do, is to harness our power to create to our power to innovate. And innovation has been a part of the BBC from its foundation. You have to refresh to regenerate, and I suppose you can't be the home of Doctor Who for 50 years without learning something about regeneration. The iPlayer is the best in the world, but we want to make it even better. We want to transform it from being catch-up TV to online TV. So starting next year, we will reinvent the iPlayer.
I use iPlayer to watch any programmes I've missed, or the news or the sports.
Used it for catching up with sport on TV.
Watch any programme anytime we want, so I really like it.
Just even things that I might not see on TV.
Browse around, which is good fun.
I think, I can't live without it.
Now we're going to reinvent BBC iPlayer for the next decade. What if it could be more than just TV online? What if it gave you an even greater range of brilliant content made exclusively for BBC iPlayer?
Yeah, you play a tune for like 5 minutes, we're like 2 minutes in. Bang,
mix it.
Mix it, yeah.
Even more channels with the content you love, all in one place.
You worry about the future?
What'll come will come.
And personalised for you.
Well, we've got all your favourites here.
What if BBC iPlayer transformed the way you enjoyed TV so you could dive deeper, control what you see, and get closer to the action?
It won't be easy to look at giraffes in the same way again.
And offered not just 7 days to catch up, but 30. What if you could watch things before they were even on TV and create your own evening schedule?
So we could go backwards in time.
In space, yes.
And forwards in time.
Space, totally. So, where do you want to go, hey?
And your favourite shows fitted to the time you've got, starting on one screen and finishing on another, wherever you are. Making the most of your time with the BBC. BBC iPlayer. We want to make it the best TV service in the world.
So, we're going to give you more content, more opportunities to watch our shows, making them available for free, not just for 7 days, but for 30. We'll give you the chance to see programmes before they've even been broadcast, first on iPlayer. Imagine if you had the evening's recorded schedule at your disposal, so you could sit at home and be your own scheduler, picking what you like, when you like it, from our channels. And because we know people often want to go back and see older programmes, sometimes classics, sometimes something more recent, we plan to launch something we're calling BBC Store, a new commercial online service which will offer people in the UK the chance to buy a whole range of programmes to watch and keep forever. At the end of a programme, if you've just watched on iPlayer, the iPlayer used to tell you, do you want to watch that again? Which, when you think about it, is a funny sort of request. But we know we can do so much better. And we'll be able to do that because we'll know who you are and we'll suggest more of what you might like to showcase, show off all the amazing content that BBC is making. But also more of what you wouldn't have guessed you'd like. We'll surprise you, challenge you. We will demonstrate we can do public service broadcasting on iPlayer as much as we can on television or on radio. I also want the iPlayer to be the home, for instance, for Radio 1. Now, Radio 1 is no longer just a radio station. It's already filming sessions, interviews, and programs that live online. Its audience can now listen, watch, and share its music performances. So I want to see Radio 1 video channel on the iPlayer alongside BBC 3, providing brilliant original content, using what's there, but getting it to a bigger audience. We also want to harness the energy of the YouTube generation. We'll invite them into the BBC and fund them to make brilliant programmes. We will free them from the conventional commissioning process and encourage them to experiment and make original online content so they can inform, educate, and entertain each other. And music will be another way we serve this new generation. Our radio stations are fantastic at finding new music, great new music, for you to listen to. Now we want to do that online with a brand new idea called BBC Playlister. This will allow audiences to tag any piece of music they hear on the BBC and listen to it later. We're partnering with streaming services like Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer, so that you can keep all your favourite music in one place. Enjoy it across whatever devices you're using, wherever you are, and we hope help you to discover and share the new music, which is something the BBC really relishes.
The UK is world-renowned for its music, and for over 80 years, the BBC has been its beating heart.
I think the BBC is at the heart of music in the UK. I think it's absolutely within its DNA.
But now, BBC Music will guide you to even more of the music you love across all platforms by introducing a new digital music product, BBC Playlister. When you listen to music, a new icon will appear live on iPlayer Radio and on bbc.co.uk across all devices, allowing you to identify any piece of music you hear by adding it to your own list with the BBC. And you can easily choose where to send your list from services such as Spotify, YouTube or Deezer, where you can sit back and listen to the music in full. Your favourite BBC presenters will be using Playlister too, giving you even more opportunities to find music across the BBC and other music providers. All of which makes personalised music experiences at the BBC a reality. And this is just the beginning of the BBC music experience of the future.
So there we are, working with the music industry to do something which I think is really special. Playlister speaks to one of our great strengths, actually Britain's great strengths, which is music. But we're also famous in the world of ideas. To take one example, last week's In Our Time brought 3 world experts, all of whom are based in this country, together to talk for 45 minutes about exoplanets. It was a brilliant, mind-expanding program, and I want everyone in the world to have the chance to listen to programs like this. Last year, we launched the iPlayer radio app for UK users. And now we're going to take the next big step, making the app globally available from next year. And we're going to unlock all the fantastic speech programming on Radio 3, Radio 4, and the World Service from their schedules. We're calling this project Open Minds, It'll be the home of intelligent content for curious people with an amazing range of output shaped to fit your life. Tell me what's new in science. Fill my train journey with great ideas. And we'll work with great British institutions like the Hay Festival, for example, to bring in their seminars, interviews and special events and help them to speak to the world. The best of British thinking on any device, anywhere. So, the new iPlayer, BBC Store, Playlister, Open Minds. This is going to be a bold era of BBC innovation. But all of this depends on one thing above all, and that's creativity. I want us to celebrate the best of British originality, ingenuity, and even eccentricity. This is fundamental. Everything else depends upon it. The BBC has always wanted to make the good popular and the popular good, and it's right to do this. But the good doesn't always have to be popular. Sometimes it's just enough to be amazing, to do something remarkable and fantastic. And we must have the confidence to back great ideas or a person with something very special to say. Drama is vital to the BBC and to all of our audiences. And in Britain, we're lucky enough to live in a country where this is something we are really very, very good at. What a golden period this is for television drama across the world, often, by the way, using British talent. From Homeland and House of Cards to Broadchurch, Top of the Lake and Sherlock. But we're not an organisation that just wants to make one hit a year. We'll make sure we offer a range of series, long and short. We'll offer long-running drama and sometimes single dramas, a breadth of storytelling that no other broadcaster in the world can rival. I'm really looking forward, by the way, to seeing Benedict Cumberbatch come back as Sherlock and the brilliant Mark Rylance in our adaptation of Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall. But there'll be more shows like Luther, Call the Midwife, The Syndicate, and of course Doctor Who, that all audiences love. It's what people expect of us, and we're good at it. And then there are the arts. Now, you'd expect me to care deeply about the arts, and you would be right. Done well, I believe the arts can move and inspire people like little else. They remind us of our capacity for wonder and delight. The arts define us as who we are. Last summer, chairing the Cultural Festival for the Olympics, I saw firsthand just what an extraordinary country this is for the arts. I believe the BBC is the world's best arts broadcaster, but I want us to do even better. So we're making more arts programmes on television. We'll make sure that the arts don't disappear into niche channels by bringing more landmark art shows back to the BBC One and also to BBC Two. I want people, whoever they are and wherever they are, to have access to the best live music and arts events around this country. So a new peak time television programme will take people, will take the audiences to festivals and events around the country to showcase our amazing cultural scene, like the Edinburgh Festival, or as we did this year with Proms Extra. I also want to bring some of the best theatrical performances from all over the UK to BBC television. And Newsnight is going to be keeping its finger on the pulses of the arts today as well. And we will relaunch The Space, our pioneering online partnership with Arts Council England, where we'll work with artists and performances from all creative industries and art forms to commission new kinds of digital art and digital performance, and to find the next generation of talent. I'm delighted we're working with Arts Council England. I'm also delighted we're working with a wide range of arts organisations, large and small, in London and around the country, who want to work with us on new commissions, people like the British Library, Fuel, Corner House and the Tate, for instance. The BBC has got to be the risk capital for the UK's creative industries. Working with the Arts Council, The Space is that for the arts. BBC Film does that, working with the film sector. And I want the same in music. The BBC broadcasts a huge amount of music across radio and television. But I want to be recognised for what we do, for the BBC Music to be a brand that stands proudly alongside BBC News or BBC Sport. This year, we offered streaming from every stage at Glastonbury by joining up our services in a new way. Our audiences loved it, I loved it, I watched it on my phone. But this is the point. Glastonbury reached more viewers and listeners on that one weekend than had attended the festival in its entire 40-year history. And I want us to do more like this. We'll be working with the industry to develop a new BBC Music Awards. We won an amazing array of new musical talent schemes, like BBC Introducing, Young Musician, or Radio 3's New Generation Artists. So every year, we'll bring them together so that the stars of the future get their chance to perform and shine on the biggest stage. And we're also going to launch a nationwide initiative to inspire children, school children, with classical music, using our orchestras and other partners to bring the music to life. The BBC matters because it can be the best in the world, not just in one genre, but in many: natural history, science, history programmes, comedy, children's programmes, and of course news. I've spent a good part of my working life in BBC News, and I profoundly believe in its singular importance. And while I want BBC News to be alive to its critics, I don't want BBC News to be cowed by them. Instead, the challenge is to take what is, in my mind, an extraordinary and unique organisation and make it even better. This means earning the respect of our audiences through the intelligence and courage of our reporting. A generation ago, we set out not simply to tell people what's going on in the world, but to try to explain what's going on in the world. And today, we must also examine it, as we're doing with the economy, as we are doing with the Scottish referendum. I want us to renew our commitment to investigative journalism. And I believe that data journalism gives us new ways to understand the society in which we live. And citizen journalism and social media can get us closer to the story of what's really going on. And from our fantastic local radio stations in England, to our news programmes in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, to our global news operation, that's what we're here to do. I want us to make the most of BBC News around the world. We have, in this building, a global news powerhouse. And in the past month, we all saw it at work in the BBC's unparalleled and brave reporting from Kenya, but also from inside Syria. What we don't always see clearly is that over the past 80 years, we've built a global news service that is trusted, is respected, and relied on by up to 250 million people around the world. And our ambition is to double our global audience by 2022 to 500 million. And we're going to do that by improving the quality of world news on television and online. We will deliver more regional output to get closer to our audiences in different parts of the world. And we'll use bbc.com to reach new audiences too. If informing the world is vital to the BBC, then so is education and educating. And I feel passionately about this. Every year, I want a big educational project with national impact. Next year, we'll be telling the extraordinary stories and legacy of World War I. And in 2015, we want to inspire a new generation to get creative with coding, programming, and digital technology. And here's why.
Now, we teach kids to read, write and count, but actually, in the 21st century, an equally valuable skill is to be able to interact with computers, not just use them as a tool, but actually to tell them precisely what to do.
Over 30 years ago, the BBC played a leading role in helping Britain get to grips with the first wave of personal computers.
In the 1980s, the BBC not only broadcast programming for kids about coding, programming, but in partnership with Acorn, shipped over 1 million BBC microcomputers into schools and homes.
Now, the digital age is presenting new challenges.
We are going to need 1 million more people who can work in the technology sector over the next 10 years. We don't have them. We've got to help people be encouraged to go into that sector.
The BBC will help to bring coding into every home, business and school in the UK, using our biggest brands, commissioning special programmes and creating innovative content for schools. The BBC will help people develop the skills to build a website, design an app or make the most of 3D printing. And we won't be doing it on our own.
We can bring together different organisations that are already involved in coding and help to be the glue that brings them together.
The BBC, they could be helping kids how to code, but at the same time really showing them with real life examples how that can relate to their future.
The BBC can have, I'd say, a transformative role in this. The BBC has power, in the best sense of the word. It has the power to inspire.
So that's 2015, the BBC working with like-minded people to do something big. The next year, 2016, I want us to celebrate Shakespeare. We'll find the gems in our archive, our extensive television and radio collection of Shakespeare's plays and poems, programmes about Shakespeare as well as scripts, stills and production notes. And we intend to make these available to schools across the country to help young people understand Shakespeare even better, and we hope to inspire them. But as we transform the way we offer our programmes and support creativity, we won't lose sight of what's already working. TV channels are not going to go away. They are a relaxed, easy way of watching on your own or with your family. Someone else has done their best to suggest a range of programmes that you might want to watch. The BBC's channels are, in a way, social media in the truest sense of the term. So we think channels will be here for a long time to come, and we have big plans for them. We want BBC Two to be broad and popular, finding the next Great British Bake Off, as well as the next series like The Story of the Jews. And we want BBC Four to return to its original role, a channel of culture, wit, ideas, casting a light on the niche and quirky and making the most innovative content on British television. But any plan for channels starts with BBC One. Above all, BBC One needs to be on top form. It has to be the nation's favourite channel, but also, and this is important, its bravest. In particular, I want drama and entertainment to thrive on BBC One, and we'll be investing more in those genres over the next few years so that all audiences find something they love on the BBC Two. We'll also look to launch a BBC One +1 channel. It's what audiences expect, especially younger ones, and it means people can get more of what they've already paid for. But as well as making our channels better, we'll make them work better. Channels will be different in the future. You'll be able to go back in time through the backwards programme guide on YouView, for example. You'll be able to go into the future or create your own schedule from programmes we release early. Channels will know what you like and what you want to watch next. Through our connected red button, you'll be able to get extra coverage, or alternative programmes, or radio stations, or content we've made specially for online, straight to the TV. Nothing can bring this country together quite like television. And so we want the BBC's channels, and BBC One in particular, to be a place where we can all share our national moments. That's why we brought the FA Cup back home to the BBC. And it's why we're going to rethink how we cover big events. The phrase "live on the BBC" will tell viewers that the experience is going to be a very special one. There are some big ideas here, and to do them, we'll need to draw on the best talent from inside this amazing organisation, but also the best talent from the independent sector and the creative industries. I want us to work in genuine and meaningful partnership with the creative sector, helping business, not hindering. But we'll also have to use our own resources better. The licence fee is frozen to 2017, and we're sticking to that. That means that we'll have to save 16% by the end of that period. In fact, we're planning to save more than that, another 4%, to invest in the future, the ideas I've talked about this morning. But we'll have to find more again to do everything I've outlined today, up to another £100 million a year by the end of the Charter. I know people won't find this easy. The organisation has been through some tough times already. But I'm certain together we can do it, as the prize is what I've outlined today, and that must be worth it. That will mean some hard choices. We'll look at our investment priorities. We'll examine every penny, every pound we're spending today and redirect resources, money, people, towards our new priorities where we can. We will ensure we have the right people in the right places doing the right things. We'll make sure that everyone who should be paying the licence fee is. And we'll need to put some of the biggest new ideas or budget changes to the BBC Trust for approval. But we're also going to simplify the organisation and improve the way it works. I want it to be clear to everyone, inside the organisation and outside the BBC, who is responsible for major decisions and projects. And we will be getting rid of at least half of our pan-BBC boards to simplify the organisation still further. I hope today you've got a real sense of where the BBC is going, the excitement. You'll have noticed some core themes: more incredible, wonderful content and more ways than ever to watch and to listen. But you've also noticed another trend towards a much more personal BBC, something different perhaps for every single one of us. Not one to everyone, but also one to one. And if we get these ideas right, we'll be taking a step into new territory. We'll be inviting the audience into the BBC. No longer a paternalistic BBC, but a personal one. Audiences will be invited to sign in. They'll get personalised recommendations. They'll be able to rate our programmes, to discuss, participate and vote. That will influence what we commission, when we schedule, and also how we run the BBC. They can become their own schedulers, but our next creators, our future innovators. This is the start of something. I don't know where we'll end up, but I want to start the conversation about this now. At the moment, we treat audiences like license fee payers. We should be treating them like owners. And that's what I meant when I said we wouldn't be the BBC, we would be my BBC, our BBC. The public owns us, and that is what it needs to feel like. We wouldn't just be inviting audiences to sign in, we'd be asking them to join in. That's the kind of BBC I want to build for our 100th birthday. Last month, we all lost a broadcasting legend. Sir David Frost was everything the BBC aspires to be. He had wit, and he used it to devastating effect. He was bold, fronting programmes that no one had even thought of before he did them. He had the popular touch and was never too grand to appeal to his audiences. He was courteous and polite, never thinking himself more important than his guest. He was a journalist and broadcaster known throughout the world for his truth-telling, for his imagination, for his ability to entertain. That was the BBC that was, and that is the BBC that will be. A BBC back to its best, that still informs, educates and entertains, but where audiences also inform, educate and entertain each other. A BBC that is both personal and also global, with channels and the iPlayer reinvented, with audiences and great programmes at its core. A BBC renewed, bolder, and much more confident about the mission Lord Reith gave us, with its best days ahead of it. Look at this building to see what I mean. This was a place where once men in dinner suits spoke into foot-long microphones. Now it's one of the most advanced, networked, interactive digital broadcasting hubs in the world. And that is why I've come home.